Hello everyone. Today let's solve the problem running for gold. So you can read the entire problem. Here they have clearly mentioned the input problem statement along with input, output and the example. So example, they have given the input and what the desired output has to be. So this has to be the desired output, and also along with the note they have clearly explained. So I'll just summarize the whole problem for you so that it is very easy to understand. I'll just simplify the problem. Just give me a second. So what the main problem states? So we are given several test cases where for each test case we have a list of athletes. So we are given several test cases where each test case we have the list of athletes. We have list of athletes in each. So I'll just give athletes in each test case. TC will be test case. Fine. So each athlete's performance is measured by 5 scores. Again, individual athlete's performance is measured by 5 scores. I'll just write 5s here. Individual, I'll just write each athlete, right? So each athlete score is measured by 5 scores. What is our main goal? Our main goal is to identify if there is a single athlete who is better than or equal to every other athlete in the last 3 out of 5 performance metrics. Out of 5 performance metrics, which athlete is better than or equal to another athlete. That's what we have to, in at least 3 out of 5 performance metrics, we have to determine the athlete who is better than or equal to other athlete. That's what they have given. So I hope the question is clear. So if such an athlete exists, then we have to return their indices. We shouldn't return the athlete. Instead, we have to return their indices. We have to return the indices of the athlete who is better, right? Who is better than the other athlete. So if no such athlete exists, then we have to return -1. If such athlete doesn't exist, I mean, when we compare, if no such athlete exists who is better than another one, so in that case we will be returning -1 directly. So I'll just delete this one. Let's discuss the approach for this. So how can we approach this problem? So just give me a second. First step is, as usual, let's go with the input reading. So I'll just give me a second. Yeah. First step is, let's go with the input reading or input handling. So what we'll be doing here, we will read the number of test cases. Also for each test case, we will read the number of athletes and their performance matrix. First read. So here this is simple. So in the dynamic programming playlist, I use different node template actually, basically to start with. I'll be making use of other template for this one, right? For the input handling purpose mainly. So first we'll go with the input reading. So where first we'll read the number of test cases. Number of test cases I have to read. So this is one thing we'll be doing. For each test case, we'll read the number of athletes and their performance matrix. Number of athletes. So main thing. And their performance matrix. So that's what we'll be doing in the first step. So next step, what we'll be doing, we will go with the initial candidate selection. Nothing but we will assume the first athlete as the candidate for being the last athlete. Nothing but here first athlete, we'll consider this one first case. He'll be considered as last athlete as well. You can consider this one as base case basically. So to determine the best candidate, what we will do, next step is we have to determine the best candidate among the athletes. So one has to be better than another based on the 3 out of 5 matrix, right? As I have explained in the question. So next we will determine the best candidate. We will compare each athlete with the current athlete. So suppose, we'll compare each athlete with the current candidate. So if the athlete is better than at least 3 out of 5 metrics compared to the current candidate, then we will update the candidate to this applet. So I mean, we will update the candidate to this athlete. So here mainly we are updating the candidate, right? Update candidate. So that's what we'll be doing in this step. This will be the third step. So after updating the candidate, so what we will do? We will verify the candidate. So we will check if the chosen candidate is better than or equal to every other athlete in at least 3 matrix, 3 out of 5 matrix. 5 matrix will be given. Out of 3, he has to be better, right? So we will verify the candidate in this way. If the candidate meets this criteria, then he'll be considered as best athlete. So he'll be considered as best athlete, right? So that's how we will be calculating in the fourth step. Next, after calculating the best athlete, we have to output the result as usual. So we will be outputting the result if we have found no athlete. So no athlete who is better than, right? So, or we will be outputting -1 if we find no athlete, right, is better than the current athlete, or we'll output 1 based index of the best athlete. That's what we'll be doing. So if no athlete is found, then we'll be displaying -1. If we find that athlete, then we will output the index of the found athlete, right? That's what we'll be doing in the fifth step. So for printing, we'll make use of console log. We'll be going with the JavaScript or the Node.js. So this is the main approach of this problem. So let's start writing the code so you'll understand this one better. So I'll just come here. Let's start writing the code. Just give me a second. Initially, let's import the file system module to read input and the standard output. So to read the input from the standard input, let's make use of the file system module. I can just write let fs equals require of fs. So this is one thing. Next thing is we are reading the entire input as a string and we are splitting into lines. How can we read the entire input? So I'll just give here fs. I'll just make use of the input file sync. How can I make use of the input file sync? Input file sync 0, comma. We will set the encoding to UTF-8, right? So this is one thing. Next, let's trim all the white spaces. We have to remove the white spaces to make the numbers or the characters that we are making use of that should be different, right? So for that purpose, we'll be making use of trim to remove all the white spaces in the input. So then we have to read individual lines in the input. So I'll be making use of split over here. So this will be /n. So I hope this is clear. Next, we will initialize the counter for reading the input lines. So we have to read every individual lines of the input. So first we will initialize the first input line. So I'll just give here this. I'll just set this one to 0. I hope this is clear. Next, let's write the function to read the numbers from the current line and increment the counter. First, we will read the first line and we have to read all the individual lines of the input, right? For that one, we'll write the function. I'll just give let read num this one. I'll just take input of, let's increment the count, right? So first initially it will be 0, we have to increment. So we have to distinguish between if we are having the distinct numbers in the same line, we have to leave the space for that and read that one, right? For that purpose, I'll be making use of split. So and let me give the space over here. And map, I can just consider anything. You can consider string, anything. I'll just write this one simple. We have to read this one. So I'll just give +a. And also we need to read the number of test cases. There can be any number of test cases, right? We have to read all the number of test cases. So in that case, let's make use of the read line. So here read num I'll make use of. Yeah. What did I give anything wrong over here? Just give me a second. This has to be just read num, right? So this is fine. After this, let's process each test case. So we have considered, right? I'll just give t minus minus while why I'm making use of the while loop, so that it will be true every time. So first step is we will read number of athletes for this test case. So how can I read? I'll just give plus read num. Again, same thing here for reading. Then let's initialize the array to store the performance metrics of athletes. We have, based on the performance metrics itself, we are getting the best athlete. So for that, we have to initialize the array to store the performance metrics of all the athletes, right? So initially, I'll just initialize this one, athletes, with the empty array. So this has to be let. This is correct, right? Next, we have to read the performance metrics for each athlete. Nothing but we are comparing comparing the current athlete with the previous athlete, so that we'll get to know who is better. So in this case, we have to read each athlete, right? I mean, performance metrics of the each athlete. I'll just be making use of nothing but iteration. We'll be going with the iteration in simple words. I'll just give I'll just push this one to and read. I'll just make use of, let's make use of the read num here. Hope this is clear. Next, after this step, I said we'll assume the first athlete is the candidate for being the best. That was the base case we had discussed while discussing the approach, right? So I'll just set this one, candidate, let's set this one to 0. Let's determine the candidate athlete who is better in at least 3 metrics compared to others. 5 out of 3. He has to be better in 3 metrics, right, compared to others. So how can we write that? Again, this is nothing but iteration. Will candidate equals 0. We have already considered 0. That is the base case. We'll start from 1. A less than n. So this is fine. I'll just give this one. I'll just consider this one better count, and I'll initialize this one to 0. Then let's compare the current athlete with the candidate. So again, for this we have to make use of this one, right? Iteration. So I have already taken the variable I. So I'll just consider j. Out of 5 matrix, out of 5 we are considering 3, right? So this has to be j less than 5 and j plus plus. As we are starting from 0, it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So j less than 5, or you can start from 1 and you can give j less than or equal to 5. That is also fine. So here, what is the main condition? So if athletes of I, j less than athletes of this has to be within the array. It has to be candidate of j, right? So I hope this works. Let's see. So I missed somewhere basically here. Why this array? This one I have to close here, right? Candidate array. So now this is fine. So we will be incrementing this one, better count. Then what we'll do, if the current athlete is better in at least 3 matrix, we will update the candidate. We have to update the candidate. So for that one, again, I'll just make use of this is condition, right? For that, I'll just make use of if condition. So if better count greater than or equal to 3, they have clearly mentioned in the question, it has to be at least 3. So let's consider greater than or equal to 3. So if he is, if the performance of certain athlete is greater than or equal to 3, then we will update the candidate. Simple. So let me set the candidate to. So this has to be I, sorry. So yeah, this is fair. Then after doing this, what we have to do, just give me a second. So yeah, here we will verify if the chosen candidate is better in at least 3 metrics compared to all other. So I'll just consider, he is superior. I'll just give initially, I'll set this one to Boolean value true. Let's make use of the iteration. I'll just give let I equals 0, I less than n, right? So I plus plus will be iterating. Then if we are verifying if the chosen candidate is better, right? If at least in 3 of the metrics we are considering. So what we'll be doing, if I equals, let me consider candidate, then I'll just make use of continue. So if you don't know continue and break, please Google it. So you'll get it very easily. Next, after continue, let me set the better count to 0. Also, let me give j equals 0. Again, this has to be j less than 5. And let's increment the j. Is athletes candidate of j, we know this how to write, basically is less than athletes of I and j, then what we will do, we will increment the better count again. So just give me a second. So yeah, this is fine. Finally, what we'll do, if the candidate is not better in at least 3 metrics compared to other athlete, then we will set the flag to false. Initially, we set this one to true. If the one athlete is superior, that means he has to be, the performance metrics has to be greater than or equal to 3, right? Then we have set that one to true. Now we will set this one to false if he is not better. So this is easy. I'll just make use of if condition. I'll just set this one, better count is less than 3. Then what we will do, we will just set this one is superior to false. That's what we'll be doing. Finally, let's make use of break. So finally, after this, we have to return the indices, right? So we are just outputting the index of the superior athlete, or if there is no athlete, then we will then we'll display -1, right? If no such athlete exists. So for printing, I'll just make use of console log as usual. So console log of, we have to give, I'll just make use of the ternary operator. If is superior, then we have to display the candidate +1. And then if there are no athletes found, then we have to give -1, right? So this is fine. I hope this is clear. So this is it. Next, I'll just come here. Let me consider the input. The output that we need to get is 1, -1, 1 and 5. Let's check. So let me run this one. Syntax error, expected identifier. So here this has to be let, right? Line number 1. Oh. Okay. Let me run this again. Syntax error, expected token, close, display. Line number 6. So what mistake I have done here? Just give me a second. So this has to be read initially we are reading with 0, right? I have to mention 0 over here. This one is fine. Same goes with line number 9. So what I have done here, here this, I'll just remove this one. I have to mention 0 over here. So it has to be n basically. Let me run this one again. Fs dot input file sync is not a function. This one. So this has to be read file sync. So did I type input file sync? Okay. Read file sync. This is fine. Let me hit the run again. So yeah, Now this is giving us the output 1, -1, 1 and 5. So the output that we need to get 1, -1, 1 and 5. So we are getting the desired output, right? Correct output. Just give me a second. So yeah, let me come over here. Let me click on submit code. These are basically graph-based questions, right? So I'll just choose this one, running for gold. Let me paste the code over here. Let me hit the submit. So let's wait for some time. So you can clearly see here, this got accepted, right? So our code works absolutely correct. So yeah, I did some typos here basically. That's why we were getting errors. So now the code works absolutely correct. So this is it. Thanks for watching, guys.